Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. Student Dr. Siddiqui here. Today I'm doing something different, but before we start and talk about this video, I'd like to introduce you guys to someone special. My brother, Mo.
Hello.
Who is also a fourth-year medical student. So this video actually in particular is going to be about how to get into medical school and what requirements you need in order to be an applicant for medical school. Let's talk about volunteering and clinical experience. So what I did was I started volunteering at the age of 16. I was able to work at different hospitals, and also I sought out opportunities to work one-on-one with physicians. So shadowing experiences, externships. I worked with several different specialists. I worked with a pulmonologist. I worked with 3 ENT doctors. I worked with 2 family practitioners and an anesthesiologist. So all these experiences actually helped me gain a better understanding of clinical medicine way before I even got into medical school. And these experiences actually helped me during interviews and even during medical school when I was learning about different diseases and different disorders. So what is your input on getting involved in the medical field and getting that clinical experience? What did you do and what would you recommend for our students?
Right. Those that are interested in medicine, definitely the earliest you can start shadowing a doctor, getting to know how their schedule is like, what kind of stuff they deal with on an everyday basis, the better it would be for you, as you could plan your career a little bit faster than somebody who doesn't know or wants to try out some other stuff before they dive into medicine. So in that aspect, I highly recommend, whether you're in high school or pre-med, calling up some doctors, letting them know that you're interested in shadowing them. Most doctors tend to be very friendly, and they're good teachers, so in a lot of ways you do learn a lot. So as long as you can commit a few days a week, whether it be the weekends, to that. So that's definitely a plus if you can get started on early.
Very good. So let's talk about research. I actually never wanted to do research. I tried it for a semester when I was in my sophomore year of college, but I didn't like working in the lab. And personally, I don't think research is necessary. It looks good on your CV. It's great if you're interested in it, but you shouldn't force it. You shouldn't put yourself through something that you don't enjoy. I recommend that if you do want to do research, do it in something that interests you. What is your input on that?
Right. I kind of have the same feeling about it. If it's one of your strengths, you have been in research for a while, definitely build on that. It does look impressive when you go and doing your interviews. But at the same time, maybe times have changed. Some schools might prefer maybe some research background. So in certain aspects, you definitely want to get the minimum requirement, but it doesn't have to be, you don't have to really be heavily invested in doing research. You're better off doing well in your other classes, getting better grades, getting some clinical experience, shadowing doctors, and maybe some volunteer work. That looks really good a lot of times on your application as well. You've put in some volunteer hours that are not necessarily medically related. That shows empathy, and a lot of times, one of the challenging things to interview for is empathy, because at the end of the day, a good doctor might know a lot, might be very knowledgeable, but if they don't have that connection with their patients, then doesn't understand where they're coming from, really that all goes to waste. So in that aspect, that's how you can show, you're empathetic to the poor. You can go ahead and volunteer at a homeless shelter. Those are all really good stuff to build on your application.
Absolutely, and so that gets me to my next point. So once you start applying to medical school, the playing ground is level. So everyone is going to have good grades. Everyone's going to have good MCAT scores. So how do you set yourself apart? And it's everything that we discussed. You get involved, you do volunteer work, you get shadowing experience, you work with physicians, just working with physicians one-on-one. All that stuff will help you. And also getting a job in the medical field. I've had friends who worked as a scribe for several years, or even, they've had medical assistant jobs. And that also looks great because you get experience, you get that one-on-one interaction with physicians, and you learn so much that you'll be able to apply once you get into medical school.
Definitely. Scribing is definitely one of the best ways to go on about that route. You get to learn, how a doctor thinks for the most part. You get to write his notes. You get to see kind of the dirty side of medicine. For the most part, most med students aren't exposed to, for instance, note writing and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're finally exposed to it, we kind of, it's a little challenging at first. But if you've been scribing, you definitely will have a
upper hand
for
advantage.
the most part.
Absolutely. So let's get to our next couple points. Let's talk about letters of recommendation. Who do you ask and how many should you get? I had 4 letters of recommendation that I asked, 3 of whom were the physicians that I worked with, and 1 was from a professor, from my chemistry professor, who I absolutely adored. This was at the college that I took. I had a year of chemistry with him, and I was involved in research with him, so he was a great person to ask for an excellent letter of recommendation from. What are your thoughts on that?
Right. So if you've been working with a professor, they get to know you a little bit. That's the person you want to ask for a personal statement. It's best to
personal statement.
Sorry, not personal statement. For a letter of recommendation, you have to write your own personal statement.
Yeah.
You want to make that unique. We'll talk about that in a second. But a letter of recommendation, it's best to ask for people that know you best.
Mm-hmm.
So the people you've worked with. The best advice I can give you is, get to know your professors. Ask them early on. You don't want to just drop the ball in the last minute, like, hey, I need a letter of recommendations. Doesn't really seem professional, as they have really busy schedules themselves. So it's best to ask early on in the semester.
Absolutely.
And it's best to ask people that you've taken a few courses with and they know you.
Exactly. And also, if you're going to ask physicians to write you letters of recommendation, like Mo said, you have to ask them early. They have busy schedules and they'll forget. So what you want to do is ask them a couple of months ahead of time, and then you can send reminders and email and let them know, you need this letter of recommendation. So let's talk about an applicant who has met all the prerequisites. They take the MCAT and either they don't get a good MCAT score or they fail the MCAT. What should they do if they don't get into medical school the first time they apply? What is your advice for that?
So overall, if you're unlucky enough to get in medical school your first try, that doesn't mean it's the end of everything. You definitely have other opportunities as long as you improve your score. Take some extra courses maybe to build your knowledge base. Learn test strategies. Maybe even sign up for a Kaplan course, something along those lines to better improve your application.
Exactly. You don't want to let that discourage you. And I've had students that I've spoken with who take a year off and either do a post-bac program or a master's program or work in research. And what that does is it helps build your CV. So once that you apply again, it shows your commitment. It shows that you want to get into medical school, that no matter the failure, it actually will help show the admissions committee that you're driven, that you won't let that small failure prevent you from becoming a doctor. So we'd like to thank you guys for tuning into this video of our series. We will be making videos on a weekly basis where we will answer your questions. So I would like for you guys to please leave your comments and questions down below, and we will be answering each and every one of your questions. So stay tuned. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it.